with episode 3 of the Lay Down
Mm-hmm.
podcast here today on a very cold day, January 14th. Of course, we're not used to the cold, but it's getting cold, Lenny.
It is
Um,
getting cold. It was
uh,
even cold today up in California. I mean,
yeah, you can see the gigantic smile on my face because my Georgia Bulldogs, the scarf I'm showing you that isn't showing the logo for
whoa,
here. Here,
Jim
I'll put this
Harbaugh
on.
is better
Um,
coach than what's his name? I
yeah,
forgot his name.
Georgia on Monday night, they slayed the dragon. They beat Alabama. They won the national championship for the first time since 1980. And we have a pack show coming to you. We're going to be reviewing that game. I'm going to get into Georgia for a bit, what this means. Then Lenny's going to talk about his Raiders and his Niners and their chances to win this week. I'm sure he has a healthy fear of the opponents, but I feel like given how Lenny's been talking the last week, he's kind of confident. So, all right,
We'll
Lenny, do you
get
have
into it.
anything to say before we start?
Uh, all I wanted to say is that the Niners and Raiders, man, couldn't be more happy with this season. Even if we lose in the wild card, both teams, I'll be fine. I won't
Yeah,
have any issue with how the season ends unless we just get absolutely destroyed in either game. Like then I'll be a little bit. It'll be like at the end I'll have that like, oh man, we really ended it like that. Like that sucks. But overall, very excited with the direction my teams are going. But that's all I wanted to say.
yeah. So Lenny is also on his phone today. We won't get into why, but he's on his phone.
I'm on my
So
phone today.
if his internet's like a little bit laggy or whatever, if he's cutting out a little bit, that's probably why. Overall, though, he looks pretty much normal. So anyway, Lenny, I'm gonna start with you because I'm gonna be a little longer than you here. So I want to get your reaction to this first. Georgia beat Alabama. Georgia won the national championship. What were your thoughts? How much of the game did you see? And what are just kind of your takeaways?
So here's the funny thing. I was for the first half. I watched the entire first half right on my computer because I illegally live stream it. I don't actually have that regular cable TV. So um, for the second half, I was actually in the gym and I was watching it on the TV thing on like the top.
Yeah, yeah.
So I watched most of the game. I wasn't like dialed into it like you probably were, but
No, I
man,
was Alabama's bit.
but yeah, great for just of Atlanta, man. I mean, after all, just everything that the football franchise has been through, Georgia in general. I mean, and to get the what was it that the Braves too? The Braves got their
Braves won.
W.
Braves won the title, and Georgia now has the title. That's two
I mean,
Georgia sports titles in 3 months.
it's just like I don't know. It just felt good to see them hold it up instead of freaking Nick Saban. I just felt good about that. When I watched the game, I was not impressed at all by Pickett. I was like, this guy's really starting for a college team in the Natty. I'm like, okay, okay, cool. But I mean, he did enough. He played good enough. And I mean, I guess that's all that matters when your entire team is stacked. It was almost like when the Chiefs played the Niners in 2019, and that was Jimmy Garoppolo.
Except Stetson Bennett actually he made enough plays at the end to where they could win, and Jimmy Garoppolo didn't necessarily.
He did not do that.
Lenny, you just went. Well, your camera's out now. Lenny, you still there? I don't know what just happened to him. Lenny, what happened? All right, guys. I don't know what happened to Lenny. I'm gonna ask him about it. But my reaction to the game was it just kind of was a bit of a. It felt like I was in heaven after it ended. Because you got to understand, I'm from. What is up with Lenny right now? Um, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what's up with him. Lenny, what's going on?
Whoa, there's three of me. There's three and two of me. Oh my god.
What's going
Wait, I'm
on? You're
sorry.
like lagging all over the place.
Are we good now? Am I good?
Yeah, you're
Or am I
good.
lagging?
What happened?
Okay. So I have this thing where I limit myself on Discord because I just don't want to spend like a million hours on Discord. So I
Right.
have like a timer limit on it, and it was about to go off, and I was using the like Discord link you sent me, so it was not on actual Safari or Google, whatever. So I had
Oh,
to like swap it real
okay.
quick,
Yeah,
but
that
fine.
makes sense.
We'll
That
be
makes
fine for the
sense.
rest of the time.
All right. So, yeah, my reaction was it's amazing for the city. Georgia, they play in Athens, Georgia. That's where I live. And Georgia
Sad
has
place to
been
live.
they've been toward I'll give you the quick history. I don't want to go through the whole history of Georgia, Alabama, so I'll just give you the Nick Saban era because I don't think Lenny's that, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you're that familiar with it the way
No,
I
no,
am.
no. Let me know.
So
I'm not. I don't know like anything
Georgia and
really. Just
Georgia's
let me know.
relationship with Nick Saban, not a healthy one. 2007, we actually won. That was with Matt Stafford. We won in overtime.
What? You guys had
2008,
Stafford? I didn't even know that.
yeah, 2008, Georgia is hosting Alabama. This is a Georgia team with Matt Stafford, no Sean Moreno, who entered as the
Yeah.
preseason Heisman favorite, and AJ Green. They're at home, and college game day is there. That's like a big show where they all pick the games. It's a big thing for college football. And it's raining, and Georgia's wearing the black jerseys, and they are down 31 to nothing at halftime. And this was in
Oh,
2008. This was
oh my
before
god.
Alabama had really established themselves as like a dynasty. This was the early part. That was kind of the
Was
first big Alabama moment under Nick Saban.
was that when Nick Saban went from Miami to Alabama? Like that was like the first
It
season, the
was two
inaugural
years
season.
after that. It was 2 years after that. That was
Okay,
2008. Um,
that's.
and then
I think it was just
2012,
Stafford cementing his terrible playoff legacy.
to 2012, 2012, 4 years later, SEC championship game. Number two Alabama, defending champions against number three Georgia. The winners go into the national championship game. It's this big event. I'm at the game. Um, Georgia has the ball, down four, last drive. They go down the field. They get to the 5 yard line of Alabama. And you know what happens? They ran out of
Well,
time.
what happens?
The clock hit zero.
Oh
They ran out of time.
no! Did they
They
use their
were
timeouts?
one.
Did they Mike
They were
McCarthy it?
one. They were one play away from potentially winning the SEC, going to the national championship game, and considering Alabama beat Notre Dame 42-14, Georgia probably would have done something similar.
Oh,
So
that
Georgia
would have
was
been.
that close. That was kind of the breaking point for Mark Richt. 2015, Alabama lost to Ole Miss the week before. They come up to Athens. Georgia is favored. Georgia is favored in the game.
Oh my god.
By this point, Alabama was well and truly a dynasty. And Georgia loses. I think the score was 38-10 or something like that.
Oh my god.
It was
What's
just
going
another
on,
rain
man?
game, just a complete disaster. 2017. Now
Jesus.
this is Georgia with Kirby Smart. Georgia wins the
Yeah.
SEC. Georgia wins the Rose Bowl. Georgia goes to the national championship game. They're up 13-0 at halftime in Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta. I'm also at the game. And Alabama, they take out Jalen Hurts. They put in Tua Tagovailoa, this freshman, and he
Oh.
comes out. He leads the comeback, goes to overtime. He throws the game-winning touchdown to Devontae Smith. Alabama wins another national championship. And then in the
Oh
same
man.
stadium, 11 months later, Georgia is up 28-14 late in the third quarter. They are physically on the line of scrimmage handling Alabama. And then what does Alabama do? They take out Tua Tagovailoa. They put in Jalen Hurts, and he leads
Ah.
in the
It's
same
like.
stadium
Oh my
against the
god.
same team. Alabama wins the SEC.
That's
Then last
terrible.
then last year in Tuscaloosa, this was with COVID, so there wasn't many fans. Um, Georgia goes up to Tuscaloosa, or goes, I don't know why I say up, goes west to Tuscaloosa. And They were up at halftime, 24-20. They were the only team last year to have a halftime lead on Alabama. And then Mac Jones happened, Jalen Waddle happened, Devontae Smith happened, 41-24 Alabama. Then
Oh
this year,
man,
another SEC championship game again. Georgia and Alabama, they're playing, right? Georgia's the number one team in the country. They have this defense that everyone's talking about as the best defense of all time.
that big boy front
Alabama
seven.
is struggling for every win. Alabama comes out, they win by 17 points by the same score, 41-24.
It's
And
supposed to
it's
be
just like
Georgia's year.
this team, so many times against the same team, Georgia's coming up short. It's disappointing, man. And I've got a lot of friends that are Alabama fans, and just
Nick
trust me,
Saban at this
from a
point
trash talking perspective, it's not
never lost
exactly
to assistant coach, our former assistant coach,
and
right?
then but it was different. It was different. This time, Alabama had some injuries entering the game. They lost Jameson Williams. I feel so bad for that kid. He was a
Oh
first
yeah,
round.
that
He was
that
a
looked
first
bad,
round
man.
projected pick. And you kind of felt Alabama early in the game. Offensively, they were doing all right. They weren't doing great, and it's kind of hard to do great against Georgia's defense. But Georgia just looked like a complete mess offensively. Stetson Bennett didn't look like he'd seen a football field. The offensive line didn't look like they'd seen a football field. And it kind of felt like Alabama would do what they did to LSU in 2011, which was just kind of winning a low-scoring 17-3 kind of game. But Jameson Williams went out. I'm not going to say they won because they lost because of that, because I think that's lazy.
It
But
is lazy. I don't agree with that.
you did kind of feel the air come out of Alabama in at that point. And look, Georgia ended up, the defense for Georgia, I think, is one of the best in history. I do. I think,
In college football history,
yeah, in college football history, when you look at what they've done this season in this era of all the RPO stuff, all of the spread offenses, all the passing, the offensive numbers today are so much higher than they were 20 years ago, even. And Georgia's allowed 10 points per game. They really only had one bad half, and that was
that's
against
crazy.
that
Like
was
in
the
any
first
form of football that isn't high school football, that's ridiculous. Like
that was the first,
anything
yeah,
above high school football and allowing just
10
like
points per game.
barely double digits.
10.2 to be exact.
I mean, still though, I mean that's ridiculous, man. Like even
It
from an
is
outsider's perspective, that's ridiculous.
so. I think, and look, they really only had a bad half in the first half against Alabama. Outside of that, they were just every game consistently shutting down the opponent. The Georgia defense, they lose. A lot of guys are going to get drafted, and a lot of NFL teams are going to get a lot of really high impact players on that side of the ball.
99 is just like Vita Vea.
Jordan Davis is. I
Dude,
love that man, and
dude, the
Nakobe
way he
Dean.
moves his arm and like this pass rush
You can't
moves,
run. No,
and
listen. They Alabama couldn't run the ball against Georgia.
I know it was ridiculous. Like they had to, if they got any run game, it was like anywhere running around 99. It was ridiculous.
Yeah,
Dude just
you have to run
swallows
you have to
the
run
guy
at
in
the
front of him.
edges. The problem with running to the edges, though, is Georgia's pretty fast too, right?
They're
With their
planning
line.
for that. They know that you're going to do that too.
Yeah,
So that makes you one dimensional on top of that. So it's kind of like
offensively,
pick your poison, I
it was
guess.
really one run that kind of set off the Georgia run game. 67 yards by James Cook. I thought, look, Stetson Bennett, I've had my criticisms of him. A lot of the Georgia fan base and a lot of college football fans have had their criticisms of him. He is 5'9". He was a walk-on. He was a 3-star. He wasn't rated very highly. He's been a backup his whole career. Last year, he was horrible for a lot of games, and he got benched. Lenny's gone again, but I'll keep going.
We're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. I got a
Look,
call for some reason.
when the game was on the line, the walk-on made more plays than the 5-star Heisman winner, Bryce Young, did. Right? And I think you've got to give Stetson Bennett a lot of credit. And I know, look, Stetson Bennett isn't an elite quarterback. He's not, he's not Tom Brady or anything like that. He's whatever. He's what he is, right? And that is, he's pretty good with his feet. He's pretty accurate. He doesn't make a lot of dumb throws,
I think you're
and
being too nice. I think
I
you're
am
being
being
too
very.
nice.
This
You're
is coming
being
from the
very
Georgia,
nice right now.
but he did what he needed to do, man. He did what he needed to do,
It's true.
and for that, and he's forever immortalized because he brought a national championship. Kirby Smart, I love Kirby Smart, man.
Kirby.
He's from Bainbridge, Georgia. He played at the university. He was drafted to the NFL in '98. And look, he was Nick Saban's assistant for 8 years. He was his defensive coordinator. And you kind of saw, once the game ended, Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, they met at midfield. It really looked like Nick Saban wasn't that angry about it. He was
Yeah,
smiling.
that's so weird.
I think Nick Saban genuinely, and Nick Saban hates losing. I've seen him react really poorly to it, but he, he seemed genuinely happy for Kirby Smart, and I do think they are close friends, even at rival schools.
It kind of felt like just when I watched it, it was like he was almost passing the torch. Like I know it's not going to be like Georgia's going to be the next great like Alabama. I mean,
Yeah,
in like a metaphorical sense, like yeah,
yeah.
here's your turn. Here's your
Metaphorically,
turn.
they've been chasing him for a while. Finally, beat him, and look what it means to the city. There's the parades tomorrow. And look, kind of got with Georgia, with the state of Georgia, kind of got an early 2000s Boston feel. Whereas if you won't know, but if you live here, you know people in Georgia think there's a Georgia, forever they thought there was a Georgia sports curse, right? Because the Hawks won one title 70 years ago. Nobody was alive for that. The Falcons have never won a Super Bowl. Georgia hadn't won a national championship. So you could have voted in the in the 2000 election and have not
Oh my
witnessed the
god,
Georgia national championship in your lifetime. Um, the Braves did win a World Series in the '90s, but
they did.
it'd been a drought for them as well. And now we've got Braves won a title. You got Georgia now wins a title. The Falcons came close a couple years ago. If the Falcons had won that title, you kind of would have had an early 2000s Boston feel with just breaking all these barriers. And I'm really happy as a Georgia fan. And look, I'm going to enjoy this title because it's the first one we've got in 41 years.
Enjoy it.
But I'm also kind of like, Kirby Smart's only 46 years old. He played here. He's from Georgia. His wife's from Georgia. They got married here. It's kind of like once you win one, you kind of feel like you can chase the replication. And
Oh, okay, all right.
with the age of Nick Saban and kind of with the momentum around Georgia, I really feel like we
Passing
could
the
get
torch.
ourselves another one pretty
Passing the
soon.
torch.
And yeah, and I'm really proud of the Georgia football organization. They made the right decision by hiring Kirby Smart, and I really think you got to give them a lot of credit for that. And look, Alabama, they're not going anywhere as long as Nick Saban's still the head
No,
coach. They're going to
no,
be
they're
probably
still
better.
going to be there.
This was a very young Alabama team. Think about what they did, Lenny. They lost a first round quarterback, two first round receivers, multiple highly drafted offensive linemen, a first round
Najee
cornerback,
Harris too.
not a
Najee
first round
Harris.
running back. They got back to the national championship game. I don't know, like
Mickey
this was
Mouse Georgia
and keep in
Championship.
mind this was Georgia's this was their super senior, this was their veteran team. They have all these guys that are going to the draft. They're going to probably take a step back next year. Not saying they're going to fall off, but they're probably going to take a step back next year. Alabama's going to be better. But look, it was fun to see because in recent history, you've seen all the offenses and the quarterbacks winning the national titles. 2016, Clemson won the national title. Their quarterback was Deshaun Watson.
Joe
And
Burrow, Trevor Lawrence. I
before we
mean,
saw what happened to him, he was a very good to elite quarterback in the NFL. 2017, Jalen Hurts slash Tua Tagovailoa both have had varying levels of success to the NFL, but they're starting caliber quarterbacks at the very least.
hey,
Uh,
starters are fine. I mean, especially at the college level.
Trevor Lawrence. we really don't know about Trevor Lawrence yet. He's had a rough rookie season,
He's
but
a
in
wild
college,
card.
he was a generational talent. Joe
Oh yeah.
Burrow had the
Oh yeah.
greatest ever season 2 years ago, and he's now having a ton of
Hmm.
success in the league. And Mac Jones last year was not
Mac
far.
Jones.
That I mean, yeah, he was. He wasn't, and he's having success too. So it's kind of I like it. It felt like we were shifting towards now all the explosive offenses were winning the titles, but Georgia's defense and Stetson Bennett kind of changed that. So yeah, that's enough on Georgia. They're not the main topic here because this is
Enough.
primarily
It's
an NFL
enough.
stream, but I'm happy about it. And speaking of happiness
Oh
for
my.
us, Lenny, the Las Vegas Raiders,
The Raiders.
they are in the playoffs.
Let's go. Oh my
So
god.
kind of take me through how you feel about the whole Raiders season and then kind of preview the game. I'll let you dominate this conversation because it's your so
Okay, so coming into this season, even before all this stuff happened, like, John Gruden, Henry Ruggs, all that, I was not confident whatsoever this team was going to go anywhere. I looked at the offensive line and I saw a significantly worse unit. I looked at the receiving core and I wasn't sure Hunter Renfro was ready to take that step as the number one guy. I mean, I guess Ruggs was number one guy, but that's besides the point. Uh, I looked at defense, and I figured that Gus Bradley wouldn't make it good enough to where it would make the offensive deficiencies any better, I guess. So what you were looking at is you're looking at a below average defense that wasn't so terrible anymore, and a below average offense that went from really good to
yeah,
just
that's how I
kind of
saw it.
whatever. And what we saw throughout the year is the beginning of the year was mostly just Derek Carr, like being Derek Carr and just winning games for us. Our team had a lot of new starters. We weren't great in those first beginning games, but what happened was Derek Carr started to dwindle a little bit due to the loss of John Gruden and Henry Ruggs, two really big parts to our offense. Henry Ruggs makes sure that the box is cleared for a running game to start going, for those underneath passes for Hunter Renfro, anybody. I mean, that was a big loss to get both of those guys.
Right.
John Gruden, especially, they've had a really tight relationship, even if it doesn't seem like that outside. From what I've heard, they were really good together, and that. So we saw these starters that were not starters from the last year really start to develop and turn into these players that can help Carr when he isn't playing, like literally Jesus Christ. um, the Raiders defense, Max Crosby, man, oh my God, what a freaking beast. That guy is just an absolute
Love
animal.
those
Yannick Ngakoue,
impressions.
love that guy too. He's a great compliment to Max Crosby, and they both get after the quarterback on defense
By the way,
in
guys, real
general.
quickly, sorry to cut you off here, Lenny, but
No,
if
it's
you
fine. It's
haven't
fine.
checked out the stream that Mitch posted, Mitch's channel is the Bottom Line View. Mitch was streaming with Lenny, and Lenny had some of the funniest reactions I've ever seen live to a game.
I
Um,
was losing my
I
mind,
could I
man.
could tell your heart was. You were trying to act like you were calm, but I could tell you weren't.
Yeah, I
Um,
was trying to act so chill. I was dying, man. I was dying. But yeah, I'll keep it short because I was going a little too much. Interior
no,
D
no, it's
line
fine. It's fine.
have a pretty good rotation there. We have some playmakers there. Solomon Thomas has had a pretty good season. Quentin Jefferson's been good. And our secondary went from the worst unit I think I've ever seen in my life to a pretty respectable unit with Nate Hobbs and Casey Hayward. And they're just a pretty solid offense, like defense. They make plays when they need to, and sometimes they get worked. That's just what it is. I mean, no defense really in the NFL right now is that good. So I like the defense. And on offense, you have Derek Carr. Obviously, he's had a career year. He's probably played the best season
Very
he's had
impressive.
since 2016. I don't know if he was better, just I guess statistic wise than last year. I don't think he
Statistically, he actually
was.
took a step back this year, but I think anybody that's really watched him for any sort of significant amount of time can see he's carrying the team even more. He has
Yeah.
he doesn't have a significant amount more to work with, I would say, than last year. And
No.
he
No, he
just
doesn't.
makes more big time throws. I think he's last year he improved with that, but I really think this year he's let it all loose. He's playing to his max, And look, I don't think Derek Carr's max is a prime Peyton Manning. No offense, Lenny,
No, no, no,
but
no.
Derek
We're
Carr's
not
max
saying that.
is
We're not
still a
saying that.
very good quarterback, right? Top 10-ish, I would say, around that
He's
conversation.
close. He's borderline, if not top 10. The offensive line has had its fair share of struggles this year, but with Hunter Renfrow just being able to get open as fast as he has, it hasn't been as much of a problem as I might have thought during the beginning of the year. Hunter
Right.
Renfrow obviously has emerged as a number one receiver for this team as Henry Ruggs went out. Very awesome player, man. I just love him. Like, I don't think he's top 10 or anything. I don't think he's an elite player, but he's just a good, solid player. And in a
You
league
need those
where
guys.
you need those guys, man. He's a foundational piece for this Raiders team, and I couldn't be more happy that he's on the team. My only criticism of him is his lack of a deep threat, I guess, which is fine. Like, we don't need him to be amazing, but
That was
just
that. I think that's where the Ruggs. That's where the Ruggs rule really came in with his speed.
yeah.
And now that you don't have that, that's kind of like I think this
Deshaun
offense.
Jackson's done an okay job.
I think the offense could have been pretty scary, honestly, if they had played like this with the addition of Ruggs. That's kind of what's made it go from like a borderline top 10 offense to a borderline top half offense, at least statistically.
Yeah, yeah. When you look at the offense with Henry Ruggs, you would have seen 800. He was on pace for about 800 yards, so you would have had an 800-yard receiver, deep threat. You would have had a 1,000-yard Hunter Renfrow. You would have had Darren Waller, who's a monster. So that's a three-headed monster all by itself right
Right,
there. I mean,
right.
that's scary, man. Um, in general, I've been very impressed with how Rich Versace has stepped in, just really
I
led
love
this
that
team
last
to
name.
greatness, man. I just
Versace.
love. I don't know if you saw the clip, but there's that clip of Zay Jones, number 7, just going up to Rich Versace, and he's like, "Hey, I got to tell you something." He's like,
I
"Do it
think I
right now."
saw that somewhere, yeah.
That was awesome, man. All the
Yeah, and I,
players
I
just seem
think
to really respect him.
I think I think the issue with the team, like as a roster, is I think the weakness is probably the offensive line. At
It
least
definitely is the offensive
from a
line.
personnel standpoint, they're like I can see so many holes in this line outside of Colton Miller, but like from a statistical standpoint, they're like just like slightly below average. So I think that really is a testament to how they've kind of schemed around it at times. And for a large part of the season, Josh Jacobs wasn't playing very well, but he's kind of turned it on this season
He's
or
turned it
towards
on.
the
He's
end
been
of
a
the
different
season.
player. He's
So
been a different
that's kind
player.
of helping them as well. How do you see this Bengals game going? We're going to give our picks. So I'm going to have Lenny kind of preview the game, and then at the end, I want to hear the score prediction, and then
Score
I want to
prediction. All right.
hear some sort of Raiders chant or something like that, some sort of excitement.
Okay. All right. So, do you want me to talk about what I think is going to happen
Yeah,
with the
just
Bengals
kind of
game?
preview the game. By the way, go subscribe to
Okay.
Mitch's Patreon. We're doing BLV versus consensus tonight, so we're probably gonna say a lot of the same. We're probably gonna keep this a little shorter because we're gonna give a lot of the points on that. But Lenny, give me the preview.
So, on offense for the Raiders, my number one thing that I saw when I was watching the Bengals tape is I just noticed that their passing defense just wasn't great. Like, it wasn't bad. Like, I could tell it had some talented players on it. But outside of Jesse Bates, and there was one quarter, I forgot his name, but
Awuzie.
they, yeah, he's all right. And they don't really have a lot of talent. I think, like, similar to last game, they're going to put Jesse Bates on Darren Waller a lot. I think we're going to see that look. And they're probably going to double team Hunter Renfrow just because there isn't really anyone around them. They were doing that a lot in the Chargers game. Since they were playing quarters coverage, they had the personnel to be able to do that. I don't know if they're going to double team Hunter Renfrow, but what that means is that Zay Jones needs to step up again. He had a big game against, what was it? Against who did he
Chargers.
play for the Chargers? The Colts. No, it was the Colts game.
Colts.
He had a big game. He had his best game of his career. And in the Chargers game, he was pretty good too. I mean, he was just a reliable option for us. And I think it's going to come down, especially in the playoffs for any team. It just comes down to receiver depth sometimes, because teams are able to figure out what you do well and get rid of it. That's what Bill Belichick's made a career out of doing, and that's what a lot of defenses have been doing. I'm pretty sure that that's what they're going to do from the Bengals. That's what the Chargers did, and I'm a little confident that the Darren Waller will get his piece too, because I don't really think that they have a lot of great linebackers, and I think if we're able to scheme open situations where Darren Waller is man on man on linebackers, I think we're going to have a good chance on offense to score about 20, 28 points, somewhere around there. So I'm not necessarily worried on offense, but what I really need to see from this team is just a consistent run game. I just need to see it. And because the reason we've been so successful as of late is just the emergence of Josh Jacobs, man. He's just been so good. Even when the offensive line has not shown him very good looks, he's just found a way to squeeze into a hole and just get 5-4 yards. That's all we need. Just set us up for short, third and short. Derek Carr is electric on third down. And I think if we're able to do all that on offense, we're going to have a pretty successful day. We're going to set our defense up for a good, what is it? They're good situations. They're not going to be all by themselves hung out to dry. And
I will back you up with this. The Bengals have allowed the 5th most yards to tight ends and 4th most receptions. So
I'm not
this could be
surprised.
this could be because last week was a kind of matchup tailor-made for Darren Waller in terms of the Chargers not being very good against tight ends. Kind of the similar deal with the Bengals.
You saw it with Foster Moreau with the tight end in that first play. I mean, dude just went freaking, what was it? He fumbled on the 1 yard line, which, oh my God, that was just killed me. I thought he was going to be a touchback. And yeah, anyway, you saw in the Chargers game that the tight ends, like just in general for teams like the Chargers and the Bengals, just aren't great on tight ends. And one thing that I'm very concerned about is Trey Hendrickson.
I thought they did a pretty decent job on Waller. It was actually Moreau who kind
They
of
did
hurt
do a
them.
decent job. They did do a decent job.
Yeah,
They put a lot of attention on Waller,
right, right.
and I'm assuming the Bengals are going to do a similar game plan to that. Like they got a lot of attention on Waller and Renfro, like I was saying. So I need to see Zay Jones have another big day, or Deshaun Jackson, whoever needs to show up. Someone else needs to show up, is what I'm saying. Trey Hendrickson's going to be a big deal. Brandon Parker had a pretty okay game against Joey Bosa. They're going to really target Brandon Parker in this game. We know Colton Miller's good in pass pro. Brandon Parker's been shaky all year. They're going to really they're going to try to, that's what I think at least. They're really going to try to get one-on-one looks with Brandon Parker. And if he holds his ground, this offense, like I'm saying, like if these couple things happen, this offense is going to have a field day, in my opinion. So on offense, I'd say we score, like I said, about 20, 28 points. If it goes into overtime or if it's some big crazy deal at the end, maybe like 30, 35. But I'm not worried about the offense, really. I think there's only a couple things that can really limit us. And that's what I think. What do you think about the offensive matchup for the Raiders here?
Yeah, so I tend to actually agree with mostly everything you said. I think the thing here is you look at the run defense matchup is interesting from the offensive perspective because the Bengals are a better run defense than the Chargers, but
I
Josh
don't
Jacobs
like DJ
has a test.
Reader versus Alex Leatherwood. I don't like that at all.
That is a poor matchup. But I mean, if y'all can hit, here's the number, and I think if y'all can hit like 4 yards a carry, you don't need 50
We don't
yard
need
runs
splash
every play.
plays.
You don't need to be you don't need to be the Niners. If you can hit if you can hit those four if you can hit those 4 yard runs, just kind of set yourself up where you're not in 2nd and 13, can get yourself in 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5, and can kind of open up the playbook. I think you can pass on this defense. I've seen teams really exploit that in the second half of the year. And I think the Raiders, they don't have a ton of high-end talent in terms of top of the league guys. They don't have a Devontae Adams level player, but
Mm-hmm.
they have a lot of just solid guys that can do what's asked of them and have kind of done what's asked for them of this last month. It kind of comes down to me is if the offensive line can hold up, and they were kind of inconsistent last week in terms of pass protection. You saw the Chargers did get some pressure on time. I actually thought Carr had one of his better games that I've seen under pressure. But they also held
It was
up
because
for
of
him.
that Joey Bosa comment, man. I told you.
Yeah.
He said he's shaky under pressure, quote unquote.
The Bengals are 9th in sack rate defensively, but the Raiders are 18th offensively in adjusted sack rate. So kind of a mediocre pass blocking line against a pretty good pass rush. If the Raiders can hold up there, I think Carr can kind of slice and dice this defense. I also think you've got some guys that are fairly fast that can make plays to the outside, and the Bengals aren't necessarily a great team that can defend after the catch. So maybe I can see some more tempo from the Raiders offense, but yeah, I
Yeah,
think you
I've
laid
never
it out
thought of
pretty
it like
well.
that. Here's the thing about tempo, which I would not be happy with if this scenario happened. If we go tempo and things just happen, we get quick three and outs. I do
Right.
not want to see Joe Burrow with the ball like that, like because he's going to get the ball a
I know,
lot
no,
if we
no,
go
no. That's
tempo and it
that's
doesn't
that's
go the right
completely
way.
fair. But my counter to that would be if your run game is getting stuffed and your offensive line is getting kind of handled from a pass pro standpoint, and Carr can't find these
No, no, I
guys,
totally
then
agree.
I
I
think
totally agree.
you're gonna have to change some stuff, and you might have to risk a 3 and out, and then having them hit a big play to kind of stay in the game. I think, and kind of keep yourself going. And I'm not saying you have to run like a 50. You don't have to run an extremely, extremely, extremely fast offense. I'm just saying you've got to incorporate some of it if your offensive line's struggling. But
No, I
Lenny,
agree. I agree.
that's not the matchup that everyone's focused on. It's Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. How are
Boo.
you all going to stop them?
Well, number one, Joe Burrow only had 150 yards against us last time he played them. He actually had one of his worst games
That's
statistically
true.
wise against the Raiders. And I don't see enough people talking about this. I don't see enough people talking about how Joe Burrow didn't play like Joe Burrow. I know these are two different teams from the time they played him, but you have to keep in mind that he didn't have a great game. That's all I'm saying. And Jamar Chase only had about 30 yards. If I saw he had 3 catch for 30 yards, I think it was. And what really killed us in that first game on defense was Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon had just an amazing game. Like he didn't look like it in the box score, but dude was just tearing us up, man. They just kept running and running and running. And it was a lot closer than the score would indicate, but it was it was it was a blowout by the end. And
The dam kind of broke.
the dam broke. And what I guess I'd say is that the Raiders defense needs to get after Joe Burrow. Wait, give me a second.
Yeah. What's he about to pull out here? What's he about to pull out here?
Sorry, I'm sorry. I was giving my in-depth analysis. I got interrupted.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it's fine.
so Joe Mixon was just absolutely tearing us up, and I think if we're gonna win, Joe Burrow has to be under constant pressure. We need to see another Max Crosby game where he just absolutely just dominates. And what I really like about schematic wise about this matchup is the Raiders play cover three a lot. We don't mix it up a lot. It's always cover three, or we blitz maybe like a linebacker, maybe on third down. It's not a lot of blitzing. And Joe Burrow has had one of his best, like he's played the best when he's getting blitzed, and he doesn't play
Yeah,
as
he's
good
the
when there's a
best
lot of
quarterback in
DBs in
the
the
league
back.
under pressure.
He's not going to be blitzed a lot. And I think that really helps, especially in cover three, because cover three specifically targets just not making big plays, letting you just take the underneath stuff. And I don't know if Joe Burrow is going to get a little antsy or whatever, but that might be the key to winning this game, just capitalizing on the mistakes that he might make after just having to make a bunch of checkdowns, because that's what he's going to have to do in this game. Because I really think Casey Hayward's had a pretty solid game against Mike Williams. What happened was that he just got burned over the top by Justin Herbert the entire game. He's just overall
Yeah.
been a pretty good corner for us. Nate
And look,
Hobbs
that
locked the
can,
heck out of Keenan Allen. What were you saying?
no, keep going, keep going.
So, yeah, Nate Hobbs, not worried about him. He's going to be on Tyler Boyd. He had a pretty solid game against us. He was the leading receiver, but only for like 50 yards, so whatever. I guess what I'm worried about from the receiver standpoint is T. Higgins or just one of those third receivers getting open, if you know what I mean. There's a lot of receivers on this team, a lot of capable players,
But
and
that's
it's
Lenny. What's going on? No, Lenny, what happened? All right. So he was talking about the depth of the. I'll kind of improvise for him. I don't know what's going on there. Um. So what kind of happened was the Bengals. The thing with their offensive line is I don't know what just happened to him. Um. What happened to the Bengals offensive line this season is because they Lenny. What's going on?
I'm sorry. I feel bad now.
What happened?
Oh man, come on. Oh wait, we got it. We're back. Oh my
Yeah.
god,
What keeps
dude, I keep getting
happening,
called.
man?
I keep getting called, bro.
All right, Lenny,
Help! I
put
get
on Do Not
called.
Disturb on your phone. There's my
Do that real quick.
yeah. All right,
So
so
anyway,
I'll kind of improvise for you. What Lenny was saying was the Bengals have depth. Like they've got Chase, obviously, but they got Higgins, they got Bullhead, they got Auden Tate, they got Uzoma. My favorite prop bet actually in this game is Joe Mixon over 18 and a half receiving yards because the Raiders do struggle with covering
oh,
backs in the receiving game, as I said in the Discord a couple of days ago. And Joe Mixon has not really been used because they've been all sort. They've just loved Jamar Chase and T Higgins all season. But I think if you're a Bengals fan here and you're Zach Taylor and you're analyzing the game, you look at some of those pass rushers on their side and you look at your offensive line not exactly inspiring some confidence. And maybe the Bengals are the team that actually has to run some tempo here because their blocks are kind of breaking down and they can't hit on some of those big plays. I think when you're playing a team and you saw this last week and you see this every year because you play Kansas City, there's only so much you can do against an offense with an explosive quarterback and receiver. Like sometimes they just make plays, right? You've seen it with
yep.
Kansas City. You've seen it with the Chargers, and you're going to see it in this game. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are just going to do what they do, like on some plays, and you just got to be able to live with the result. I think Lenny makes a good point when he says as long as Joe Burrow doesn't pull a last week Joe Burrow or his last game, and Jamar Chase doesn't do what he did to the Chiefs, it's kind of a success if you're a Raiders fan. I
I think
think,
we're gonna be able to score enough points. I'm not worried
yeah,
about Joe Burrow having a good game. I'm worried about him just having an amazing game. I
yeah,
guess.
and if he's under pressure every play, it's hard. Even for Joe Burrow, who's been very statistically good under pressure, it's going to be hard to consistently deliver. And the thing is, they don't really have the run game to bail them out and get them out of the situation. Number one, because the Raiders' run defense has creeped into the top 10 on a yards per play basis.
Somehow,
And the Bengals' run offense is 24th on a yards per attempt basis. They really haven't been all that great because they've just been so pass oriented. I think that's kind of hurt their run game. It kind of I don't know. I felt like Mixon had a lot of momentum at some point of this season, and because Joe Burrow's just really come on strong, they've been so focused on that. I think Mixon's gonna have to be a big part of the passing game, as I said. And y'all can struggle with guys out of the backfield, and
it's our linebackers are not
Mixon
great
can
in
catch.
coverage.
Like Mixon's a decent receiver, so I do think that's kind of if you're a Bengals fan, that's the area you want to target here. And I think they're also going to have to run some tempo here.
I don't
Um,
think they use Joe Burrow as a receiver that often. All right, no, Joe Mixon. Sorry.
no, they don't use Joe Burrow.
Joe
No,
Mixon, because
he's
the
featured. He's not a
backfield, I
main
think.
option.
I think they're going to keep him in the backfield, especially in this game, just because of Crosby and Yannick. I think
So
they keep.
he averages about 2.5 receptions per game. For
Two
his
and a half
career, that's
receptions.
about 2.5 for about 20 yards this season. So that doesn't seem like a lot, but it's
No,
you've got to keep in mind that like things can change in one random game, right? We didn't hear about David Tyree ever until that one game, and now he's a household name. So
talking
you,
about third options coming up big. That's what I'm talking about.
yeah. So look, you've got to be able to have that to your game, I think, and I think Zach Taylor's got to look at some of the weaknesses of the Raiders, and you got to respect the strengths, right? Like the Raiders can get to the quarterback, and if you're able to, kind of wear out their defensive linemen, I think the best path of success, realistically, is Joe Mixon having a monster game. That's I think what it is. I think it's him running the ball better than I expect, and also him catching out of the backfield.
Again, that's what they did last time, and I think that's their road this time.
That's their road. That's their road. All right, Lenny. What is your prediction for this game? The Bengals and Raiders both are on long droughts for playoff wins.
My prediction.
I believe the last Raiders playoff win was 0-2, and the last Bengals playoff win was in the early 90s. So, what's the prediction here?
A long time, man.
What's your prediction?
I think the Raiders are great in red zone. Get a lot of field goals. I think they're going to get a lot of shots in the red zone. So I think I'm going to go 25-24, something like that. One-score game, Raiders. I think Raiders are going to win this game.
You're
really
picking
do.
the Raiders. He's picking the Raiders. Oh my God, Lenny, what is going on with you, man? Yeah. So Lenny's picking the Raiders. I can see that. I'll post. Go follow the Instagram, guys. We just created it. I'll be linking it in the description. We'll be posting all of our picks for Wild Card Weekend. I'm gonna go check the Discord real quick for Lenny, but yeah, the Raiders, I think, have a very good shot at winning this game. Moving on to the Niners game, since Lenny's not here. The San Francisco 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys, two old rivals. The old faithful Niners heading down south. They're playing the Dallas Cowboys, and I think this is a really fun matchup. I really like this matchup. I think it's between two of the most complete rosters in the league. You're looking at a Dallas team that can run it, they can throw it, they can be balanced, and you're also looking at kind of a weird Niners team that has been good at times this season, but also been kind of inconsistent. But I think for the most part, they've been very successful, right? I don't know what's going on with Lenny, man. So yeah, I think when I look at the Niners in this game, they're going to be able to run the ball. I'm going to start with the Niners offense versus the Raiders defense. The Niners are going to be able to run the ball. Dallas's run defense is only 23rd in yards per attempt. The rush yards for the Niners are actually not great. It's 15th, which is just kind of average on a per attempt basis for a Kyle Shanahan team, given what he did in Atlanta and what he has done in San Francisco. But yeah, I really do think that the Niners are going to be able to run the ball, and if they're able to run the ball, they'll be able to maintain some balance here. Lenny's got to go. It's fine. I'll carry on. I think if the Niners maintain some balance here, then they're going to have success offensively. The thing with Dallas is they are very hit and miss. They're very, kind of inconsistent in terms of their defense, and I feel like their pass defense is really good on some weeks, and it's really bad on other weeks, and that kind of mirrors the form of Trayvon Diggs, who has been overall very good this season because of his interceptions, but he's also been taken advantage of a couple times this season, as shown by the amount of yards he's allowed. And so if the Niners are able to find a consistent rhythm in the passing game, set up the run game. I think they'll have success offensively here, and I can actually see them having a lot of success in a shootout. Now, for Dallas, the Niners' weakness, I think, is their pass defense, and I understand that they've played pretty well. They're actually 10th in yards per attempt allowed, which is surprising to me. I think that has a lot to do with just the overall defensive line that they have that kind of protects the secondary. And to be fair, they've played a little better than I think I would have thought they would at the end of the year. But Dallas can throw the ball. I just feel like sometimes Dallas's pass offense is too inconsistent, right? I feel like the pass offense can be really good, and we've seen it be really good this season. But we've also kind of seen it in recent weeks just kind of be lethargic and bland, and it's not been the same that it has been earlier in earlier parts of the year. So I think that's a really interesting matchup. I think the Niners can cut off the run game. Dallas has a very good offensive line. Dallas has a very good rush attack. But I mean, the Niners' run defense is elite, and I've been saying that for weeks now. They can cut out the run completely. The Niners are just a really good team in terms of their run defense. So when I look at the game, I think it very well may be decided by the coaches, and I think that Cowboys have the better coordinators. I like Moore and Quinn, but I definitely give Kyle Shanahan the advantage over Mike McCarthy. So it really could be kind of like that. It really could be, you know, Mike McCarthy gets outshone by Kyle Shanahan this game. And if that happens, then anything's on the table. Anything's on the table. The Niners have a roster that I think is not as talented as Dallas's, but it can be just kind of it has the ability to beat them is what I'm trying to say, right? And I think a lot of people are picking the Niners, and I do think that kind of actually helps Dallas's motivation. But overall, I really like the matchup here. I think it's a really good rivalry. I'm happy. I wasn't alive for the old rivalry, but happy for the new age Niner Cowboy rivalry. Dallas is 4-2 against them in their history in the playoffs. As a neutral, it's going to be fun to watch, and I think that's going to be an explosive matchup. So that's going to end it. Sorry, Lenny had to go, guys. He just DM'd me that, and it's fine. Make sure to subscribe to both of our channels. Go follow the Instagram, and that's pretty much it. So have a nice day, guys, and enjoy playoff football.